Hi. So today I want to talk about an analogy that just came to me earlier today that I find very satisfying and I think it's very easy to understand about law of attraction and about all the subjects in your life. And I want to talk about why the hell is there so much fucking suffering in our lives? And what law of attraction has to do with it. So, don't you just love the sun? It looks so pretty here. I love my country. It has some of the prettiest nature. That's Estonia, by the way. Travel to Estonia. You'll see stuff like this. I look like I'm in heaven or something here. And honestly, I kind of feel that way too right now. But basically, all of these subjects in your life. So at any given point in time, you could be, not that you could be, you are focused on something, anything. And every subject is really two different subjects. Two. And on the one hand, you have wanted things, and on the other, you have unwanted things about that subject. So every time you think about something, every time you're focused on something, anything, you are picking up one end of these two. You can't pick up two at the same time. You're picking up only wanted or only unwanted. As soon as you're focused on something, so the easiest way to understand this, or that I can explain this right now, is that, for example, right now, I'm out here. I'm just sitting here, out here in nature, right? And so this is one subject. And if I focus on it and I start talking about it and thinking about it, here's what happens if I'm focused on the wanted. So I'm out here in nature and I'm focused on the wanted about this subject. Then I would think and say things like, well, this is really nice. The sun is really nice. It's really quite warm here. That's nice. The nature around me is really pretty. It's such a pretty fall time. I feel really comfortable here. And I'm so glad that this place where I'm at here, like physically right now, that it exists. That we have a place like that I can come here and sit here and make a video here. I'm focused on the wanted. But if I wanted to, I could focus on the unwanted about the situation. So, for example, if I was focused on the unwanted, what I would say is, well, the sun is really bright. It's really in my face. Like, I can barely see anything. It's really annoying. The sun is really warm. I'm kind of sweating right now, a little bit. There's flies who also love this sun flying around me right now. And sometimes in my face. It's annoying. The weather is kind of cold, as you can tell by how I'm dressed right now. So you can see that it's one subject, but my focus determines how I'm currently feeling about this subject. I could talk about the wanted or I could talk about the unwanted. And this is every single subject in your life at any given point in time. And so, how this relates to the suffering that we go through, this is how. And this is that analogy that came to me today. It's like, so imagine a sword. Every single subject in your life, no matter what it is a sword. A sword has two ends. One is the blade end and one is the handle end. If you if you pick the sword up, which end are you picking it up from? Stay with me. Think about this for a moment. Any subject in your life is a sword. So in this analogy, life is made up of swords. But which end are you picking up? If you pick up the unwanted end, what you're basically doing, energetically speaking, you're picking the sword up from the blade end, and you feel it instantly. Because unwanted feels uncomfortable when you focus on it. And there is a whole range of emotions when it comes to unwanted and wanted. It goes from feeling a little bit uncomfortable to downright bleeding. Any subject. And if you pick up the wanted end, then you're picking the sword up from the handle end. And it feels completely different. So the question is, anything that you're focused on in your life, which end are you picking that sword up from? And all of this suffering is about picking the sword up from the blade side. Recently in my videos, I have been talking about something called momentum. If you really get focused somewhere emotionally, whether it's a feeling that feels bad or a feeling that feels good, if you really get focused on a track like that, momentum will occur. And pretty soon there's a person going by right now, but we are just gonna ignore that. Pretty soon, if you are focused on a feeling, no matter what that feeling is, momentum is gonna occur, and it's gonna be difficult for you to stop thinking about it, whatever it is. That's just that feeling of momentum. And in the sword analogy, then, what is momentum? Momentum is just squeezing whatever end you have decided to pick up. And so if you have picked up the unwanted end of anything, and momentum is really going, what you're doing is you're squeezing really hard that blade end. And this is what I'm talking about when I say there's a range of emotions. There's a range of how uncomfortable this feels. Either it's a little bit uncomfortable, or it really fucking hurts. All the way to downright bleeding. And when you think about this analogy, then you understand that, there's literal bleeding in life, and there's, psychological bleeding. And if you squeeze it really hard, then this is what's happening. You are causing basically your own suffering. And now the question is, why would you do that? Why would you pick something up from the blade end, ever? Because in this analogy, you understand that this is kind of ridiculous. If I'm picking up a sword, why would I ever pick it up from the blade end? It's a good question. Why do we keep on doing that? It could be for many reasons. For example, maybe your family always picked it up from the blade end. They pick everything up from the blade end. Like, have you ever had these people in your life who are just always complaining about something? It's like they always have a list of complaints, and the list just keeps on getting updated. And there's no end to it. So these people are basically causing their own suffering. In this analogy, they are picking the swords up, whatever the swords are in their life, from the blade end, always. And it's always uncomfortable. You can always tell that you picked it up from the blade end because it hurts. The more you squeeze, the more it hurts. But if you have been taught to pick it up from the blade end, And then you decide, hey, actually, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe there's another way. And then you decide to pick it up from the handle end. It feels unnatural. It feels abnormal, basically. This is why sometimes, like, when you get focused on something, anything in your life, any subject, and you actually try, let's say you've been learning about this, you're watching my videos after all, and, hopefully you're watching other videos from other people on these subjects so you could, like, get a better understanding and not just watching me, but you have been watching this and you have been learning about this. So now you actually want to pick up the handle side because it's more comfortable, and it actually, if you think about it, makes more sense that you would do that. But if you've never done it before, or you have rarely done it, then, and you start doing it, that feels now a little bit unnatural to you. Because the blade side, when you pick it up, that really hurts. And it doesn't matter if it hurts a little bit or a lot, it still hurts. But if you pick up the handle, that feels better. But if you've never done it before, now you're likely to think something is wrong. Something's not right about this situation. This is easy to understand if you think about relationships. The kinds of, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, could be, but any kind of relationship in your life. If you are used to being berated and abused and people not liking you and people not understanding you and all of that, and then suddenly someone comes along that is not treating you that way, what is your, especially if you haven't been practicing your higher self-worth and self-respect, if you haven't been practicing those feelings that much, and then someone comes along and actually treats you well, what is your emotional response? You think you're being duped. You think you're being tricked. You don't trust it. You go, there's something wrong here. It doesn't feel right. Even though, logically thinking, this actually is right and better for you, but you're just not used to it. So it feels wrong. So when you start practicing all of this and you start practicing feeling better, which in this analogy just means picking the swords up from the handle side, practicing doing that instead of practicing picking them up from the blade side. You're practicing being focused on the wanted more than you are focused on the unwanted. You're practicing appreciating things instead of complaining about things, finding things to appreciate. Attitude of gratitude, basically. If this is your first time doing that, feels really uncomfortable because you will feel this sense of feeling better. You feel more relaxed. And it's so funny because a lot of the time when people start to feel more relaxed and they're not used to it, they're not used to things going well for them, then what are they likely to think when they actually feel that way? They feel relaxed. They're likely to think, something is wrong here. I have forgotten something. I must have forgotten something because I feel so relaxed. And if you really practice that, even if you pick the sword up from the handle side and you feel better, but you have been practicing being stressed and worried about things, you are likely to drop it and then pick it up again from the blade side immediately. And that's what that feeling of worry is about. That feeling of discomfort. Something must be wrong here because I'm so relaxed. You're just not used to it. So you are likely to drop that sword and then pick it right back up, but from the blade side. So you start hurting yourself again. Very interesting, don't you think? I think it's very interesting. And you could see then, through this analogy, that since life is made up of all of these different subjects, all of these different swords, and all of these swords have a handle side and a blade side, and as soon as you get focused on any subject, you are either picking up the handle or the blade side. If you are very used to picking up the blade side, so you feel pretty shit in your life. And your life reflects that too, that you feel pretty shit. Then it feels to you as if life is made up of these swords that have no handles. Like it's all just blades, no matter what you focus on. And if that's how you feel, it makes sense then that you would feel this constant suffering. You're always hurting. You're always bleeding. You always have wounds. You can't even pick up any new subject. You don't have any time to have your wounds heal when you have already picked up a new subject, a new sword from the blade side, and it's new wounds, like it opens again instantly. So basically a lot of people out there are just sort of bleeding, sometimes literally, other times psychologically, because they are picking these swords up in their life from the blade side. This is what they are practicing. And if you're really practiced at that, then it feels like there are only blades and there are no handles. But that isn't true, because it's about what you have practiced. So if you want to stop doing that, and you want to actually feel better, then you have to care about how you feel, because you can always tell which side you have picked up. Because the unwanted always feels uncomfortable every single time. So you can always tell, I've picked up the blade side because it feels uncomfortable, or I picked up the handle side because it feels comfortable. It feels better. You feel relief. And an interesting thing about this, sometimes you are so practiced at picking up that blade side and really squeezing it and really making yourself bleed, you're not, you understand, you're not able to instantly pick up the handle side. In order to pick up the handle side, you have to let go of the sword. You have to let go of the blade. You have to let it drop. And if you are really used to squeezing it, holding on to it and bleeding, then obviously if you let go of it a little bit, it's not like you're gonna stop hurting immediately. You just feel relief because you're not squeezing so hard onto this blade anymore. You're still bleeding, there are still wounds, but you feel better. You feel relief. So when I talk about feeling better, I'm not talking about feeling good necessarily, because sometimes feeling good is not available to you. If you really practice that feeling really, really bad, then feeling really good is not available to you right now. What is available to you always is feeling relief. I feel like that's an important distinction to make. So what does that mean then, if you are so practiced at feeling so bad, and you can't get to feeling good? See, this is why the law of attraction is not toxic positivity, because I can't tell you, you just get happy, dude. Just chill out, dude. You're not in a place to get happy. You're not in a place to even really chill out that much. All that's available to you right now are not any of these good, really good feelings. All that's available to you right now is relief. So basically, if you've been depressed for a long time, what might be available to you right now is anger. It might be rage, something like that, because that is closer vibrationally to where you are, where your practiced emotional state is, than something like happiness. There's like a whole emotional spectrum. Let's say happiness is over here. Well, if you're depressed, you're over here. You can't make a jump like this. You can only make like this kind of jump. So you could go from really powerless to really angry. That might be available to you. You would have to test it out. And you would notice as you do that, you feel better. You don't feel good. That's a far cry from feeling good, but you feel better. That is what I mean when I talk about finding relief. And in the sword analogy, if you do that, you go from powerless to angry, let's say. In that moment, you have let go of the blade. Again, you're still bleeding, still hurts, really a lot. But there's a little bit of relief because you're not squeezing so hard anymore. So, and remember, when you actually get to a place where you start picking these swords up from the handle side, it feels unnatural at first. Feels unnatural to be relaxed, to try to relax. Feels unnatural to actually kind of sort of feel better, even feel good sometimes. Your mind is so practiced at searching for stuff to worry about that you are more likely to immediately go back to picking up the blades. But this is why I talk about caring about how you feel. Because if you care about how you feel, and then you notice how uncomfortable it feels when you do that, then you might actually start to make different decisions. And I'm telling you, there's a handle end, there is a wanted end to whatever you're focused on right now. But you just have to decide to focus there, to try to focus there more of the time. You just have to decide, I'm gonna look for relief. I may not be able to feel good right now. Again, if you're really depressed, you can't get to happy from there. You can get to something like anger. And then you have to know that that's okay, that this is part of the journey. You know, it's okay for you to be angry about your life and about your circumstances, and for you to be like, this is not fair. I don't like this. You have to acknowledge that you've been feeling powerless for a really long time. So feeling better for you might look like anger right now. So you have to give yourself permission to feel that way. And I'm not saying feel that way and stay there forever. No. I'm just saying feel that way, feel the relief of that, and then once it stops feeling like relief, then look for more relief. Try to feel better from there now. But you have to give yourself permission to feel that way, because other people are not really going to give it to you. Because if you're really angry, yeah, you're not, nice to be around from like their perspective. But where you are is where you are. You feel how you feel, and it's valid, whatever it is. So because other people are not going to give you that permission, or I guess I am giving you that permission, me, random person on this planet somewhere, giving you permission right now to be really, really angry. So get angry. Get angry. And see if you feel any relief from that. Because in that case you have let go of the blade. At least you're not causing more bleeding. You have just started to move towards some healing, basically. I wanted to talk about this sword analogy because this is, actually, if you watch Abraham Hicks, for example, I talk about them all the time now because they're just my favorite. I have watched other teachers as well, and I can make sense of what they are saying as well because, well, they are all saying the same thing if you actually pay attention. And I'm about to get to that. But Abraham Hicks is just, for me personally, makes the most. It's like the easiest for me to get and understand, basically. And they have this stick analogy, which is basically the same thing as the sword analogy. There is wanted in every subject and there is unwanted in every subject. But why I have upgraded this to the sword analogy is because, well, Abraham is pure positive energy, which we all are. But sometimes, as humans, I feel like, especially now these days, we really need like almost a gory visual of what we are doing with our energy. Because if I talk about a stick, it might feel like it doesn't really matter which end I pick the stick up from because it's a stick. Like in your mind, if you think about it, it's a stick. Like it's not like one end hurts more than the other. From your human perspective, you feel that way. So I think it's like easier even for people to understand the same concept if I switch it up for a sword instead. Because unwanted, if you focus on it, it feels uncomfortable. So if the unwanted side is the blade and the wanted side is the handle, then I feel like that's much easier for you to grasp, like what I'm talking about. But it's basically the same stick concept if you listen to them. I can understand why they would be talking about the stick because from the universe's perspective, there are no right things and wrong things. There are really no unwanted things and wanted things. There are no things that are good and things that are bad. The universe sees it as it's all good. Everything, no matter what experience, no matter what is happening, is adding to the expansion of the universe. It's all good. So from the universe's perspective, yeah, everything feels like a stick. But I think it's easier for us, in our human form to understand that it feels to us as we live life, it feels more like a sword. So that's that. But as I was saying, there are lots of different teachers who are talking about these things. But if you pay attention to what they're really saying, I feel like everyone is talking about one and the same thing. Which is get happy, basically. That's like one of Abraham's favorite jokes. They say, we only ever teach one thing, which is get happy. We say so many words about it and we come up with so many concepts, but all we are saying to you is get happy. And I get it. Actually, I get it. It's just that, well, this is why Abraham Hicks is just touring all over the US all the time, because people keep on asking for different concepts so they can understand this universe better. And there are so many different people, which is why there are so many different teachers of this and so many different people talking about this from so many different perspectives and in so many different words and concepts. Because it's so that more and more people can start to get this. So if you don't get what I'm talking about, I am sure there is somebody out there who is basically talking about these same concepts in a way that you can understand better, You don't have to listen to me or to Abraham or whatever. There are so many others. But they all talk about the same thing, which is get happy. And you know why that is? That is literally because it's like the point of life. Is just be happy. just to create a life in which you feel happy, a life that you feel happy about. And that's so hard for us humans to understand because we want there to be some kind of bigger mission. It's like, well, it can't be that simple. The meaning of life, just be happy? Really? That's what we feel like. We want there to be some big mission. And I'm not saying that we can't have these missions. To me, like talking about this and like sharing what I know and hoping that maybe it's helpful to someone, that's a sort of mission. But I know, like at my core, especially if I'm in this good feeling place, I know that really my mission here is just to experience life and just be as happy as I can be. And work towards that if I'm not feeling happy at any given point in time. I know that the point of life is happiness. Now. I know that now. I didn't always know it. But that doesn't mean that you can't have these missions that you go on to like help the world and stuff. I think that's important too. But why do you want to do that? It's interesting to ask yourself that, because if you ask yourself long enough, like, why do I want this? And then why do I want that thing? And then why do I want that thing? You have to eventually arrive at, well, I want these things because I think that I will feel better if they are that way, or if I get them. Why do I want to help the world? Well, because I want the world to be better. Why do you want the world to be better? Well, because I want the people to live the lives that they deserve. Why do you want the people to live the lives they deserve? Eventually, you're gonna arrive at, because I would feel better if it was that way. Try it out with yourself. It might take a little bit of time because you will come up with all the reasons in the world for why you want these things that seem like they are not that. But at the core, yeah, it is that. This is why I'm talking about your emotional state all the fucking time now, because it's all about that. So, picking up these swords from the handle side is also about your emotional state. It's just about feeling better and then eventually feeling happy, which is the point of all of this. The suffering, no matter your reason for it, no matter why you keep on picking up these swords from the blade side, no matter what your reason is, you are still the one doing that. And I'm just here to tell you that these swords do have a handle, even if it feels like they don't. It's just that you have to decide to... You have to like accept the fact that there is a handle, even if you can't see it right now. And then you have to start to want to feel better, to feel relief. That is the only way you can ever get to possibly holding the handle. And then when you hold the handle and you squeeze that part, so that means momentum is going in the wanted direction now. You squeeze that part, you know how you feel? You just feel empowered. You feel like, I've really got a hold of the sword. It's not hurting me. I feel powerful with it. I feel like I know what I'm doing with it. You can get to that kind of place. And that feels so much better, but you have to practice it and give yourself permission to practice it, because other people, most of them, will tell you that no, life is suffering. You must suffer really hard and then you might get somewhere. But you have been doing that. You're not getting anywhere, really. Hardly at all. You just feel terrible all the time. You're just bleeding all the time. And you don't even have any time to heal when you've already picked up some other sword again from the blade side and there's new wounds again. And I'm not laughing at you, I just know what it's like. Otherwise, I couldn't be talking about this. Obviously, I have my own experiences with that. I have my own experiences, and all of this that I'm talking about has come from them. It's kind of like you have to experience these things in a way, because only then can you start to understand that you don't really want your life to be that way, and that it doesn't have to be that way. And only then do you start to ask for answers. And ask, what the fuck is going on? Why does everything hurt all the time? It hurts because this is just what you are practicing. Which I know seems really simplistic, but really nobody is doing this to you. Even though you might have manifested evidence in your life that, yeah, people are doing this to me, but your reality is a reflection of how you feel. So these people there and how they are treating you is because you have practiced basically being treated that way. And it doesn't mean that you deserve it or something. That has got nothing to do with it. No, you don't deserve it. No, it should not be that way. It's just that if you practice a feeling state, then evidence is gonna gather around it in the form of people, places, things, and impulses that occur to you, and the things that you say, and the things that you do, and how other people are treating you as well. It's just matching. It's only matching your emotional state, what your emotional state mainly is, what you have mainly practiced. That's all that's really happening. But if you just keep on picking up all these swords from the blade, and then you practice yourself into a feeling of powerlessness, and then you feel that that's what life is. And it's really believable, I know. All of these feeling states are really fucking believable, because obviously evidence will gather around whatever feeling state you are in. So if you feel powerless, yeah, everything feels powerless. Everything feels pointless. And you can't even perceive anything outside of that. But there are different feeling states that you can get to eventually. If you go in the direction of relief, you just have to stop squeezing that blade so much. And eventually you will let go of it. And then you start practicing something that feels better. So I wanted to talk about the sword because I think that it's just a very easy visual that you're unlikely to forget ever again. Very easy visual to understand what you're doing with your energy. If you're thinking about something, whatever it is, and it feels uncomfortable even a little bit, you have picked up a sword from the blade side. And if you're thinking about something and it feels pretty damn good, all the way from like something like contentment, even hopefulness, to being excited or actually feeling like you are on unconditional love, which you are. And so you love everybody and everything, and that's how you, let's say that's how you're currently feeling. Well, then you have picked up a sword from the handle side. And everything is that way. And it just takes practice. And it just takes giving yourself permission to practice what you want to practice. Most people picking things up from the blade side. So this is what we're going to tell you to do. You have to suffer and try really hard, and all of this is just picking everything up from the blade side. So again, you have to prove it to yourself. You can't really listen to me. So I hope you've gotten something out of this and that it has been helpful somehow. And if you hear any sound, it's just there is this tree. I'm going to show you. It's very pretty. Stay with me if you want to see a pretty tree. If you want to see a pretty tree, this tree here, there are these leaves that are falling onto where I am right now, on the roof of where I am right now. So this is that sound. Very, very pretty out here. So that means I am picking that subject up from the handle end. And you can do the same thing. And this is what finding relief is. This is what finding better feeling thoughts is. Attitude of gratitude, basically. So I hope that this has been helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.